the Jack Blood Show. Yeah, thanks for joining us, folks. Second hour starting on the first edition of the Jack Blood Show right here in American Freedom Radio and affiliates, deadlinelive.info. Great to be back with you. We're working on the production, so how did the first hour go? Pretty much, I guess, kind of like it never changed, nothing ever changed, and we're just here when we just sound like we always did. I was just joking with my guest. I'm trying to get the hang of this. How do you do this talk radio thing? So I'm doing my best, and I'm going to continue to do my best, the best I can, to the best of my ability, and we're going to report the truth, not as we see it, but as it is. And then we're going to let you decide what the truth is. We don't tell you that here at Deadline Live, deadlinelive.info, and the Jack Blood Show. On the line with us is Wendy Lineweaver. She's been a good friend of ours, a real solid patriot out there, and she was a member of the Hutaree, which you're seeing now in the news. There's a huge trial going on right now up in Michigan, and they are being tried and ready to be hung out to dry as being anti-American and dangerous extremists to our government. Certainly the poster people, the Timothy McVeigh, if you want, of our era, yet they haven't actually done anything. Oh, yes, they have. They've gone out and they've helped the people for many years in their community. They are very solid people, but one of them got a little tempted and brought the whole thing down around there. That's how we are seeing it, and the trial is happening right now, and Wendy is very close to all the people up there. Thankfully, Wendy, you weren't indicted in this entire mess, but you've got the skinny. Thanks for joining us. Good to have you with us. You're the first guest on my new show.
That is an incredible honor, Jack. Thank you so much for having me. I can't even tell you how happy I am to be here.
Well, you know I love you, but you've got a big story, so we want to get that out as well. And I'll remind people as we're talking about this, we have a chip-in for donations to help these guys out. I mean, they are just buried under massive bills trying to defend themselves. You know, I got a phony DWI down here, and it cost me like $10,000 just to clear my name from that. Which I did, thankfully, you know, because I didn't break the law, but it cost me $10,000 to make my case, and I can't imagine what this must be costing these guys. For people who don't know the story, can you kind of bullet point us for us and kind of take us down this line and tell us, you know, how this all began and how it happened, and then we'll talk about the trial.
Absolutely. We were 2 years ago. On March 27th, we were lured to a warehouse in Ann Arbor under a fake pretext of a memorial service for one of our guys that had supposedly died. I call him the undead dead guy, and because he's obviously not really dead. And in fact, he's going to be testifying this week. I believe. But they lured us to this warehouse, and they sprang their little trap on us at this warehouse, and it was supposed to be away from like a population, you know, where nobody else would find out about it or know about it or while it was happening. And 22 fully clad jackbooted thugs with M4s pointed them at our heads, and nobody was armed. None of us were armed, and we all complied, and we've been complying ever since, really. They apparently had started this so-called investigation. They've been looking at us for about 3 years, since 2009. They put a paid informant in there. And then once they got what they wanted out of the paid informant, they put an agent in there. And the agent pretty much put a brass ring around Dave Stone, the leader's nose, and led this guy around, you know, with money and, you know, meals and promises of, you know, I'll buy you this and I'll buy you that. And Dave just got sucked right into it. And one of the most important points is, if somebody out there is trying to get you to mess with a bomb or talk about a bomb, or anything that's nefarious in any way, shape, or form, they are probably a Fed trying to set you up.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, that's what we were saying. And look, I mean, it's so easy to actually get away with something like that. And it's just incredible that more terrorism doesn't happen here with all the people, all the enemies we've made all over the world, Wendy. And it just kind of shows what control they have over all of these people, and that they are really working, most of them, with the FBI. We saw this in 1993 World Trade Center bombing, the smoking gun for 9/11, in my opinion, just because the FBI did it. And the FBI, exact same thing, and they gave bombs, real bombs. This is all on tape, by the way, and it's mainstream media, to these alleged terrorists, and they tried to take down the World Trade Center towers. And you didn't hear much of that, but that came out in the news. So this is similar, though this didn't go live. We have seen, I think Judge Napolitano counted 17, and now with this latest one here the other day in the D.C. plot, 18 different false flag events where the FBI was getting in, rooting, and finding someone gullible enough to go for this, and bringing everybody down under it. Not one real terrorist busted on their own, allegedly. I mean, that's what we're seeing. So that's what happened to you guys, and it just took one guy to be weak enough to fall for it.
Exactly. And how does this keep us safe, Jack? I have no clue.
Well, what keeps us safe is having people like the Hutaree doing, good work in the community. As you told me before, we've done interviews with you, and you gave us some of that background. They're just shooting fish in a barrel at this point. And so that's basically it. Now, everybody else, how did they get dragged into this? Just because they knew Dave Stone? Just because they were members of the Hutaree? Obviously, you escaped, and they made some pretty heavy allegations against you, but they couldn't back it up, and they were lying, so they didn't have enough to go to court and take you into court with these guys. But how did everybody else get so wrapped up into it if only one guy was working with this informant, who, by the way, we know he got about $31,000 for setting you guys up?
Yeah, exactly. And that was $31,000 for lies. And it boggles my mind how these agents or these FBI people didn't do their homework on this guy and did a little fact checking on this guy's information. And now they're going to take lies and try and present that in a trial. That's pretty shaky. What they did and how these other guys got trapped in this net is the informant and the infiltrator, there's two of them now, they got these guys all on recording, puffing up like turkeys, talking a bunch of, tripe or whatever. They, as men do, they, talk to each other, and they try and outdo each other and out-talk each other. And that's freedom of speech, the last I heard. So they got these guys talking, and they think they can build a case out of that. And when they went in and raided their homes, they got Bill Cooper's book, they got, Behold a Pale Horse. And they've got,
incredible. I'm sure a jury on that alone will convict these people. I mean,
Exactly. I mean, and then all the Alex Jones videos and DVDs and 9/11 inside job stuff. They got all that they're going to present on these guys to try and use that against them. But they got, they got them all on recording. I guess there's over 100 hours in phone conversations alone that they have. And when I was at the courthouse last week, it took 3 people with 2 tiered carts of giant notebook documents, and they were just rolling this stuff in front of the jury. Look at all this very large material that we have on these guys. And I just laughed. It's ridiculous.
But they tried to. This is how it works. We have to understand this, is that we're looking at circumstantial evidence with very shaky witnesses, so they've got to build this all up on character. This is why they're building profiles on all of us online, so that they can later use this stuff against us as a character statute. It's not that I did anything wrong. It's just that maybe I'm just a different kind of a person than you that's on the jury. So, I mean, but the whole thing is so ginned up. It just is amazing how it could even stand. But where are we at? Because it looks like the government has to save face here somehow, and they've got to get some convictions.
Well, they already have a conviction one of our guys is changed his plea from not guilty to guilty, and he has decided to cooperate with the government and roll over on these guys. So I don't know how that's going to affect it all, but the defense believes very strongly that they can prove reasonable doubt. Absolutely. And the defense has, they've got a great defense team. I'm extremely pleased about that. The boys are pleased too. I have been, maybe we should go back to the Bridgewater search and rescue that we went on about 1 month or so before these raids happened. Michael Meeks, who's one of the defendants in this case, and me and Jimmy Scheel, who you've talked to before on your show, we all went to the supervisor of Bridgewater Township, Jolie Mull. She called us in to help her with a search and rescue for a woman that had been missing for 4 or 5 days, and we went to help. We went to help, and we were working with the local Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department and the local volunteer firefighters. And we went and helped find this woman. It was the typical pattern where you spread out, 10, 15 feet apart, and we combed through the woods until we found her body. She had been deceased. And Mike Meeks was a former Marine. He was a Washtenaw County Republican delegate at the time, and he said that that was his third search and rescue, and all 3 times he has found somebody dead. He went on search and rescue when he was in Iraq, Gulf War I, and found both of those guys had deceased as well. So he's a real patriot, Mike is, and we love him very deeply, and the entire town of Manchester is completely behind him. Everywhere I go in this little town, they absolutely say that this whole thing is horse hockey that's happening to him right now.
Are those people the jury, Wendy? Are these the kind of people that we're going to find on your jury, or have the prosecution and the government found people somehow that realize that anybody that might be even slightly upset with their government could be the next Timothy McVeigh, and they just start throwing books around at you?
Yeah.
What does the jury look like? Give us some insight into that if you know.
Oh, I absolutely know, because I was able to sit in on jury selection. Fortunately, because Jimmy Scheel and I are going to be called as a witness, we can't go to the trial, which is understandable, but they allowed me to sit in on the jury selection, and I was very pleased with this Judge Victoria Roberts. Now, she was appointed by Bill Clinton, and it was, in my opinion, the best decision of the entire Clinton administration. I got to tell you right now. She is
a clock is right, twice a day, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that was only one decision that was right? So
sure, looks really hard. We can find one more, but go ahead.
Yeah, you'd have to look pretty hard. Absolutely. But she is a fantastic, dynamic lady. I really, really like her. She was very quick to dismiss a juror when the juror said, well, I can't get through this in my mind that these guys are guilty. And she said, well, thank you very much. We will let you know. And then when the juror walked out of the room, she said, okay, we're dismissing that one for cause. And, like a real jury selection goes, the prosecution got some and the defense got some. So I think it's a very well-balanced jury. I was pleased at what I saw. I know Michael was pleased what he saw, as far as this goes. And, I just hope that our, constitutional form of, trial goes exactly the way it's supposed to. And either way, the decision either way, whether it's guilty or not guilty for these guys, either decision is going to be a monumental decision. I mean, it's going to be a decision that affects every man, woman, and child in this country. And I don't think people understand the gravity of that right now, Jack. I think that this is being kind of swept under the rug because the prosecution side is weak. Yeah.
And they don't want the rest of the country to know what a flimsy case this is, and they're really just trying to punch their way out of this wet paper bag of a case. And that's all they're do it. And the locals, I mean, this is going on. You mentioned the judge and whether she was a good appointee or not. The pressure is on locals, even on the federal judge on a local level to, uphold the standards of the community. Otherwise, the locals get upset and they want them gone. So, I mean, the feds are, bringing their case and they're saying, look, we've got to hold these guys up as poster boys. We have a black president and this is why they're doing it. They're all racist, which I know you've commented on that there were actually people of all persuasions and all creeds involved in the Hutaree. So obviously that wasn't true, but that's what they want to paint. This is the case that the MSNBC crowd wants to paint of conservatives, of right-wing people, of patriots in this country, and they're supposed to be the poster boys for this, but it's not working according to plan, and this is just this kind of frothing at the mouth, going what the NDAA really says here, that we'll just go ahead and get Americans if we think they're any kind of a threat, if they even have a conversation, they know anyone that could possibly be a threat, we're going to nail them to the wall. And I guess this will be the first real case under the NDAA, even though this has been going on for years before this was actually signed into law. Cousin Barry Obama says he's not going to use it. We're going to break. Wendy Lineweaver is with us. We'll talk more about the Hutaree trial, this incredible trial going on right now on the Jack Blood Show. Stay with us. Well said. It's not a question of being brave. It's just, I don't want to be your slave. I think this is a prevailing thought in this country, and this is where the globalists, the New World Order, the usual suspects have overstepped their bounds. This is where their hubris knows no bounds, and that is their Achilles heel. Welcome to our little show, the Jack Blood Show, right here on American Freedom Radio and affiliates, DeadlineLive.info. I'm Jack Blood. As always, right back with you. We'll be here 5 days a week in the mornings, 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock a.m. in the Central Time, and that's 10 to 12 on the East Coast. We've got some great contributors, some really amazing guests popping in here and there throughout our run. We're also going to be taking your calls every day, getting your feedback, and decoding and breaking down some of the top stories of the day. Not only is it kind of a slow news day today on this used car sale day, President's Day, sale day, but this is a really big story, and it's a story of people, getting together, knowing that they've got to protect themselves and their community from the federal intrusion, from the climate of declining liberties, and that is the Hutaree. And you've got some guys like this in any town you live in any state you live in, and I've met many of them, and 99% of them, I hate to use that term, but, let's just go with it. The majority of them are really, really good people, and now we're beginning to see that, I've got contacts in the State Guard, not the National Guard, the State Guard. And these are ex-military guys who are all oath keepers, who understand everything that's going on. They know what's going on with the Federal Reserve. They're not going to obey any unlawful orders to contain us or to attack us. They're doing these urban shield drills all over the country. And I think San Francisco, you're next. And then they're coming here to Texas. They've already done them in Boston and in Los Angeles. They bring in the Black Hawk helicopters. And the people of those cities think they're under attack because there's a massive drill going on, which, by the way, is a cover for something that might really happen. This is what we saw in 9/11. I digress. So this Hutaree story is huge because, there, but for the grace of the government, go us. And so that's why Wendy Lineweaver is here with us today. She's one of the witnesses in the trial. She's been watching. These are all her friends and family that are involved in this. And, she'll tell you the truth. The people that were bad, she'll tell you they're bad. They effed up. And the others were really in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, aren't we all? They passed the National Defense Authorization Act. We're all terrorists. Now, they didn't really need to do this because the Patriot Act basically says the same thing. They've been doing this. They've been rendering people innocent people, some of them. We always think of Mararar in Canada. It just had the wrong name and got sent for rendition, and, oh, sorry, wrong guy. Or Brandon Mayfield in Oregon right after 9/11, who was a university professor who was claimed to be, attached to Al-Qaeda. Totally wrong. They had to let him go and compensate him. So this costs a lot of your money. I think really it desensitizes people to any real threats out there, so they're actually weakening this illusion of security, and good American people are getting caught up into this net. Wendy, thanks for being with us today, and this is a hard thing to talk about. We've done it a few times, and every time it's just like, man, there's so many parts to this, and it's just complicated, but really it isn't. These are good American people that for the most part did nothing, and now they're under trial for their lives.
Absolutely. And again, Jack, you are the only one covering this. And that's a little pathetic. There's a guy here in Ann Arbor who works for AnnArbor.com. His name is Lee Higgins. He's been the only other reporter that's been digging up a lot of dirt in this case. He's dug up all kinds of stuff that's interesting. And it was kind of cool that I'm going to digress here a little bit. You just played Poker Face just now, and I got an email from Paul last night, and he wants to say hi to you, and I want to say hi to him on the airwaves. Hi, Paul.
My brother.
He's excited that you're back, Jack. Anyways, what came out, what this guy found out was that the informer had gotten into Dave Stone's such good graces that Dave, when he got married to Tina Stone, the informer was the best man. Not the informer, but the infiltrator, the FBI agent, was the best man at their wedding. And this reporter flushed out the story that he signed his fake name to a legal Michigan document, the marriage license. And I guess nothing happened, and the marriage is not null and void, but that could have rendered their marriage null and void. This guy flushed that out. He also flushed out the fact that, and that was the FBI agent. He also flushed out the fact that the agent was, paying for meals and buying them diapers and, paying for God knows what else. That will all, I'm sure, come out in the trial. He also flushed out the fact that the paid informant guy, the guy who got the undead dead guy that I call, he got $31,000 from the FBI, and he 1 month to the day before the raids happened, he got into an argument with his wife, shot a gun, discharged a weapon in his house. Didn't hit his wife or anything, but she called the police. He was arrested, taken in, and the Wayne County prosecutor, Kim Worthy, obviously they denied this, but all the charges were dropped, and he was supposed to be on probation for 3 years. That was all dropped too. Then there was another incident that happened with this guy. After the raids happened, apparently this paid informant stabbed himself, and then called the police and said his wife did it, and the wife was out shopping somewhere. So this guy, this paid informant guy, is off his rocker. He's got a longer criminal record than all of my guys put together. So, I don't see how it just boggles my mind how the higher echelon up in the FBI actually gave the green light to spend the money to justify their bloated budget to take my guys down.
No, that's exactly it. No, that's exactly it. These guys have to justify their big bloated budgets, and they've got to come up and catch people. So if they don't have any real people, they've got to invent people. Otherwise, a situation like this, we've seen many times, could actually, again, like Oklahoma City, go live. And it didn't, I think, primarily because they're just looking for people to hang out to dry to justify their jobs. And that's pretty sick when you think about it. Let me ask you Was there any possibility that this was going to go live? Do you know? I mean, was there any possibility that the feds were going to take Dave Stone all the way to the event, to an Oklahoma City, to something that they could really use against all militia people and all American-loving patriots out there? Was there any possibility that it was going to get that close, or was it always meant to be shut down and then just, use that as evidence?
Well, I think it was always meant to be shut down so that the feds can say, we had complete control over it the entire time. There was never any real danger, like they've said, 18 times now before?
But they've done this before. They lost control of the 93 World Trade Center bombing. They lost control. That's admitted. They lost control of 9/11 because they were allegedly rooming with and following some of the alleged hijackers for the entire time. So, again, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility that could have happened, and maybe the next time it will, because certainly they need something now. I think they're more concerned about having Iran's fingerprints on an event here in the United States so that people will really, crank their head around. Obviously, these things they've been blamed for, that being Iran around the world, aren't really getting to Americans so much. So they need to see it for themselves right on their home turf, and we're expecting that. So maybe they'll be set up, and then another militia person will be set up, and something bad will happen because they really milked Oklahoma City for all it's worth. You mentioned Bill Clinton. I mean, after that, we had the first version of the Patriot Act in the Clinton crime bill. And, that really brought tyranny to this country. And they used that and they milked it for all it was worth. Let me ask you this. What's on the tapes? I assume we can't play them here on the radio, and these jurors are allegedly hearing these in court without, going for 10 minutes and explaining it all. I mean, what is the damning thing on those tapes that could trip these guys up and lock them up for life? Is there something there?
Well, when I was at the pretrial hearings, they showed one of the more damning videos, and the reason why they showed this is because there was an argument about transcripts and translation, and they were going to project the videos on the screen, and they were going to have the transcripts underneath being highlighted as the person was saying it. And they actually showed the part where the FBI agent, supposedly bombs an explosive expert, brought a bomb over to Dave Stone's house, and they showed the bomb. Then they were showing Dave and these guys and Mike Meeks and Tom Piatek weren't even present at this thing. I don't even know why those guys are sitting in there, and neither were the guys from Ohio, for that matter. But showed the bomb. I was astounded I was totally shocked when I saw this. Then it just showed these guys talking about it. Then it showed an audio clip of the agent. They were all in a van, Dave and his son and his son's wife or whatever. They were all in a van, and the agent detonated it by remote control, and you hear a boom. And I mean, that if you're a juror, that would be pretty darn scary to see that. The problem is that Dave Stone wasn't smart enough to devise a device like this, let alone afford the ammo, or let alone afford anything like this. These guys can't even afford ammo, so.
Wendy, he's going to get what he deserves. I mean, look, we've all got to be responsible, and when we make mistakes, sometimes we got to pay a pretty big price. I'm more concerned about the other people that got wrapped up in this. So, is there anything on the tapes that would implicate anyone else besides Dave Stone, and is there going to be a problem with that?
No, there isn't. And all these guys ever did was, like I said, they talked a lot of smack all the time, and who doesn't? I mean, we all did. Mike Meeks, they were talking about, there's cops all over the side of the road. All you got to do is just look. There's a blue lights on top of their car. They're not hard to spot. And then Mike said, yeah, it's kind of like a Kmart blue light super special. And, and that's just the joking banter back and forth that was always present.
Which could be maybe taken out of context. But then we got to realize, not just if somebody's coming along and tempting you with a bomb and some money and fame and glory or whatever else, but you're talking to somebody and just goofing around and saying something that might be a little politically incorrect, et cetera, and you could be being taped or something. So, I mean, I guess we can't be scared of this all the time, and I don't want people to get that at all. We've got to, live our lives and be free. But at the same time, if we don't know people, or even if we do sometimes, we've got to be careful what we say, because that can be used against us. And this, of course, is the whole idea behind Facebook, is you implicate yourself and record your crimes on your cell phone and upload them there for the world to see so you can get busted. It's a pretty convenient little trap that's been set with this social networking, and David Icke and I talked about that in our last podcast, his first of 2012, and we kind of break that down. What I'm curious about is, and I know how this works, you're not under arrest, right? But they're taping you without your knowledge, which is certainly against your Fifth Amendment right, because you're being investigated, and they need to tell you're being investigated, you're being taped. It's amazing to me that could even enter in as evidence. Personally, I just find that offensive.
Absolutely. They put a tracker device on Tom Piatek's truck, and I don't even know if they had a warrant for that in the Supreme Court.
That's been ruled unconstitutional by the men in black robes recently. They did something okay with that, right?
That's right. That's absolutely correct.
Too late, guy, but I guess that sets a precedent you can even use retroactively, I would think.
Yeah, I would say so, too. I mean, if the Supreme Court came down with the decision, sure, it would be retroactive, because they were supposed to be doing that to begin with, is getting a warrant before, executing a move like that. I'm sure the defense lawyers would be all over that.
Yeah, everything that stinks in our justice system under the sun is involved in this Hutaree case, and I'm sorry, I guess I am one of the only people covering it. And it's easy for me to do. I mean, if I had the time and the resources, I'd be up there and running investigations and helping out in the trial. Because it just as easily happened to me or any of my listeners. Hey, we got to go to break here, Wendy. Come back with us, and we'll get some parting shots, parting comments. We're doing it again right here, the Jack Blood Show. You caught the first one. It's February 20th, 2012. I am Jack Blood, your host, your narrator, your tour guide, as always. Great having you with us. Hope you like the new show. We're doing the best we can, and we're going to do even better. I want to thank everybody that's been wishing us well over at... Got to get rid of those ums and ahs, man. It's hard. I'm out of practice. Facebook.com. You can link there at deadlinelive.info. Go find our Facebooks. We've got a couple of them over there, and we post a lot of news. And it's weird. The people following us has been stuck on the same number for a long time. I think there could be some funny business going on there. But we hear from all of you guys. You can send us messages. You can post stuff up on our wall. Catch the news. We got an automatic news feed going there from deadlinelive.info, deadlinelive.info, and we're on Twitter as well, where you can find our news feed and our RSS feed and all of the original content and commentary we do right there at deadlinelive.info. We're putting up this day in history. So if you missed the recorded segment today, you missed that part of the show, it's going to be up at the website every day. So you can cut that and do something with it or pass it around or just enjoy it. I think it's important to know history, or we're doomed to repeat it. It's been great, and I got to thank Daniel, because Daniel's getting up early for us here, and it may not be that early, but hey, man, the guy works hard and stays up late. So Daniel and Danny and all you guys over there, I probably did the last thing you wanted to do, which is get up early and do a morning show, but I think this is going to work out good, and let's face it, there just isn't a lot of good stuff on in the morning, especially at this time. That's one of the reasons I chose this time, not to mention the fact that I have to get up at 6 every morning, so now you do too. This has also been great for our international audience, who generally had to stay up really late to hear our afternoon drive show that we did before, and now it's at a little more reasonable time. Of course, if you missed the show at all, the archives, the podcast, everything can be found at deadlinelive.info or AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Ron Paul came out, and I guess he's catching a little flack for this. This made the front page of Drudge this morning. Ron Paul saying that we're turning into, I guess that's the understatement, we're slipping into a fascist system here in the United States. I guess he's got to be somewhat cool about it. What he said was, we've slipped away from a true republic. Does anyone doubt that? We are now slipping into a fascist system where it's a combination of government and big business and authoritarian rule and the suppression of the individual rights of each and every American citizen. And if this Hutaree case doesn't just plainly point that out to you, I don't know what it's going to take. You talk to people, I don't know, this police state, you're just paranoid. There's no police state. There's no problem. Oh, those people up in Michigan, look what they did. Look what they were going to do. Thankfully, the FBI came in and found these people and predetermined that they could make terrorists out of them so that we can have somebody here in this country to be afraid of. So we can have reasons to give up even more of our rights. So we can turn this even to more of a technotronic police state. 30,000 drones will just be in the sky. Talk about a nightmare waiting to happen here in the next couple of years. Part of the NDAA that even people that have never been awake before or aware before is now starting to focus in on, saying, hey, wait a minute, this is fascism. That NDAA also funds the drone program in places like New York. There's a lot of little things it does. Of course, Obama said, if you elect me again, we won't use it. It's already being used. And that's a little campaign and political trick that they're using to draw this contrast between themselves and these evil Republicans that will take your rights. They just forget there's one guy that won't do that. Wendy Limeweaver has been with us, and she's one of the witnesses at the Hutaree trial going on right now in Michigan. This is set to be a long one, Wendy, so I'm sure we're all strapped in here. I don't know when the government will be done presenting its case and the defense will have a chance to actually start telling the truth about what really happened up here. But we've heard this in every case. Every terrorist case, they go up and they say, well, it was a government informant and this guy wouldn't have done anything if they hadn't have come along. I mean, we see this in the Internet Predator series that is on TV where, they get these guys, they get young girls to pretend that they're young girls when they're really not, and they get these guys sucked in. These guys that might have never done anything like this, but here's the opportunity, and they're stupid enough to do it, and these guys get the book thrown at them. So in every other trial where they've said, hey, the government did this, the government made me do it, it hasn't worked. Now, for Dave Stone, maybe it shouldn't work. Maybe he should get what he deserves. For the rest of you, I think everybody needs to walk out of there, and then we all come up and have a giant party up there in Michigan to celebrate. So add anything that we might have missed, anything that my listeners need to know about this, and then talk about, what you're taking the donations for and where that money is going to go.
Absolutely. And you had mentioned well, I think what we need to focus on here, Jack, is what are some solutions that we can all do in our own communities? Because I don't think solutions are talked about enough, and I'm sure you agree with that.
Absolutely.
My buddy Jimmy Scheel, who has been on your show before with me talking about this case, he is running for the supervisor of Manchester Township. And that is a huge deal. He's absolutely determined to do this, and he's got a lot of support around here for that very purpose. We have been involved with the Campaign for Liberty here, and we go to a Liberty breakfast once a month. And this last couple weeks ago, we talked to a man who's going to run for Washtenaw County Sheriff. And we are making inroads despite the fact that the government wants to paint us as cop killers. Despite all that, we are making inroads with the local county sheriffs here, because if there's ever like a tornado that comes through this part of, the country, or blizzard or whatever, trees falling in the road, this sheriff, this man actually said that he would contact the local militias and work with us, because he said he would be crazy not to have free boots on the ground, volunteer boots on the ground. He said he would absolutely utilize the local militia groups, and that would include us, because we're all in Washtenaw County here. That would also include Mike Meeks, and even if Mike gets acquitted and the local sheriffs were to call us out, Mike would be the first one on the line to come to help in anything that is needed. And I just want to make that clear. And you had suggested that you wanted to do something to help us out. Well, you have, by putting that chip in widget up on your site, Jack.
I hope it does better for you than it did for me in the past. But what if people, first of all, don't be afraid. to go donate to this. It's not implicating you. You're not going to get in any trouble, and I think maybe some people worry about that. Look, if you're listening to this show and going to the news stories that you're probably going to, if you're a regular listener to this network, you probably have already dug your own grave with circumstantial evidence, and we can't sit around and freak out about that all the time. We've got to go forward here and get our country back. So, don't be afraid, number one, to go to our chip in at deadlinelive.info and to donate a couple of bucks. Now, where does the money go? Who gets it and what's it for? I mean, we got, what is it, $1 million defense fees here. Who knows, how much this could cost. Plus, these guys have been out of work for a long time, and they got to take care of their families. I know that there's been some legal defense fund set up, and they're trying to help you guys out, too. But if people go donate, say, $50 right now to the chip-in at deadlinelive.info, where can they say the money's going, and what will it pay for?
Okay. I am taking care of all of the funds. I went to my bank, and I have opened up a separate account for those guys, and all of the donations are going into that account. I've got a spreadsheet. I've got it all worked out. I'm the one handling the whole thing. I'm right now. We're about $350 in the hole, but I've spent my own money to get us. I've got these boys suits. I've got them backup suits. I have been, 3 of the defendants have to drive. One pale horse has to drive from Ohio every day to Detroit. He has no job. He has a small he has 3 children. One of them is like 9 months old. And I'm almost out of time. So there's a lot of miscellaneous costs involved with defending yourselves against the world, the federal government, and these guys need help. That's all there is to it. They're the first ones that will come and help you. And wouldn't it be nice, Wendy, if we could raise the $31,000 that this snitch got for setting you guys up and put that back into play to help all these guys? I really think that's a worthy cause. And, hey, if you can't get in and get your hands dirty and really help, this is something you can do. Wendy Lineweaver, thank you so much, and we'll be doing updates as you send them to me here on the show, and you can go to deadlinelive.info for any breaking news on the Hutaree case. Thank you, Jack.
Quick website you need to throw out or anything, or we're all good?
Hutaree donations at chipin.com.
Okay, and that's at my site. Thank you, Wendy. Folks, we'll be back tomorrow with another morning show, The Jack Blood Show. It's been a wild ride. Thank you for listening. We'll see you then. Until then, as always, I'm Jack Blood saying be bold, and mighty forces will come to your aid.